call the Monteagle Council meeting to order. We're going to start with roll call. Nate Wilson.
Here.
Alvin Powell.
Here.
Jessica Favaloro. Here. Bill Ray Parmley. Here. Marilyn Martin. Here. And then next we will do the pledge. Earl, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In prayer. Jessica, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Yes. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful to be here in a country where we can make decisions and we have so many blessings. We ask that you be with this council and all the people that are here tonight and give us discernment and grace in making choices that you find are appropriate. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, you have in your packets, which you've had since last Friday, we have the September 27th meeting, we have the October the 18th, and the special meeting and the bid opening, which was on October the 21st. So I'm going to see if the council has no problem with it, if you will approve all those at once, or if you have any changes and you want to make those per minutes.
I would move that we approve all minutes as they are standing for the 3 meetings.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? We're going to change the order to business tonight. Mr. Malouf, we're going to ask you to come up because there's some people, everyone's welcome to stay, but everybody may not want to stay for everything. So you had asked that you could present, and we're going to change the order just a little bit with a few things tonight.
Hello?
It should be on. It was.
Now is it on? Now is it on?
Then
Please, my voice.
hold it down. Hold it down. That's right.
Now what? I don't know.
Your little red light's on. Nobody's home.
Is one of those working? Butler, you can switch with him and give him one that's working. Take that one. You
Hello,
know,
hello.
Yeah, that one. He's going to switch microphones with you. They were working earlier, but that's technology.
Thank you, Mr. Chief. I thought it were. Now we're good?
It was.
Test.
He was working over there.
We might be on now. Okay. Good evening and thank you, Mayor, Alderman, members. We have some presentations today of a fund drive that was started for the fire truck as well as the generator for the police department. So is there any special order?
If you want to start out with the police department
Okay.
first, and then we'll do the fire department, which is different. If you want to.
Katie and Tim Trahan are underwriting the initial cost of the generator for the police department in an amount of $5,000.
Katie's
So
here.
Katie is here to make that presentation.
Katie, we're going to see if you don't mind. Thank you again for you and Tim. I know you came and said y'all wanted to help. We're going to get the chief in here and we're going to get a photo, if you don't mind, with you on us. If you don't, so we can just have this to put online. All right. Y'all want to go? Y'all want to go have the picture? If you do, we have to go down here.
Let's just get a picture. Good, thank you.
We're not going to keep everybody all night, but Greg's going to stay there and she's going to get photos.
Oh, well,
Official photography. Yeah, we have an official photography. Okay, you just want to be independent. And thank you again, we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Get him home, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead and introduce him, so we've got the.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our new police officer, William Rayline. He'll be on day shift. You'll see him Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, every Saturday.
Nice to meet you guys.
11 years
Greg, you're back again.
Have to widen that doorway. Katie, still here. Katie, thank you very much. The generator for a police department is very important when you have computers, when you might have power outages and an alternate command station, any number of uses where the police department in town has to keep going. And Katie and Tim, thank you very much on behalf of the police department and the town and everyone else that it's a very important gift, and I dare say we appreciate it.
Yeah, we really do. Thank you again. And they came on board and said they wanted to help, and I've always been there to help, and we do appreciate that.
And also people that come forward to help. We have 2 presentations, which funds would be applied to the purchase of the fire truck that we'll be discussing later. So, Rich, you want to come up first?
What is Rich's name? Your last name, sir?
Wyckoff, W-Y-C-K-O-F-F. It's our pleasure, the South Cumberland Community Fund, to give to the city for a purchase of a fire truck, a check of $28,500.
And we do have the fire chief and the assistant chief here that will be coming in with us tonight. We discussed later, we did get the truck, did y'all know, but Rick will tell you more about that. How do you want to stand in the middle of these guys and then just hand us the check, I guess, like you're. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Another presentation for the fire department truck is from the Monteagle Sunday School Assembly, and Scott Parrish is here this evening.
Good evening, Mayor Rodman and Alderman. On behalf of the residents of the Monteagle Sunday School Assembly, we are delighted to be able to support the safety of the community with a donation of $55,200.
Look at him showing out. All right.
Of course, is our chief and our assistant chief, and thank you very much, sir. And we have another 10,000 that come in from small donations. Is that 20,000 that people have donated from the community when we said, hey, we're buying this truck, which we did buy the truck, we'll tell you about. You want to go ahead and tell them about the truck, and then we're going to get Miss Susan Johnson up here just as soon as you get finished. So I'm going to just stand down here for a minute.
Well, do you want me to do the whole report? My report?
No, let's just tell about what we did purchase
Okay.
the truck, and then let's get Miss Susan up, and then we'll go into your report.
Perfect. We are purchasing a new used truck for $149,000 from Brindley Mountain Fire Supply Company. It will include a foam dispenser, tank, pump, everything that met the qualifications that the chief and assistant chief were looking for, understanding that it's a new used truck. Part 2 of all of this, we're starting to draw specs for a new truck and move forward in that direction when the windows and grants and everything open up. But right now we expect delivery hopefully within a month. They run it through the shop, they add the foam features, they do all the necessary repairs. The certification of Trump is valid for a year, and that's it. When it's ready, they deliver it. That's included in the price as well. So Monteagle will be back in shape. As we've discussed in the past, this all has to do, besides protecting the community and its residents and property, it also helps our ISO ratings, which in turn help our insurance premiums for the individual property owners. Thank you very much to all.
When you have the chief and the assistant chief, we have the engineer, and we have Travis Longer. And so, and then of course, they're all working. And this is our volunteer administrator, the coordinator for the fire department, Mr. Craig Maloof, that's working with that. And they're getting things like insurance claims now in. We're just working on multiple things that we hadn't, and we do appreciate it. And we'll be talking about your gear and some of your stuff later, come to stay away. So we're gonna do one other thing tonight. Susan Johnson, would you please come up? And then I'll go sit down and we'll take care of business. As many of y'all know, and Susan will let you get a little brief history about what the Isaiah 17 house is and what it's gonna be here in Monteagle, but what's going on.
Okay, the Isaiah 117 house will provide care for children who are awaiting foster placement. So currently when children are removed by the Department of Children's Services, they're taken to an office, a conference room. Sometimes in Grady County, they're actually taken to offices at the county jail. So once our house is completed, we're hoping for December, That will no longer happen. Children will be brought to the Isaiah 117 house where they'll get food, clean clothes, baths. They'll be able to play and just be children. And that's our goal. Our goal is to step in early and reduce trauma for these kids, help DCS, and also help the foster families by providing the supplies that they need. And I do want to say the town, we are so thankful that this is where God led us to be. The town has been amazing at the support. We can be out cleaning up land and somebody will pull up with equipment and they'll start helping us. So we're definitely in the right place, so thank you.
And on behalf of the town of Monteagle, here's a check for $500 to use, because I know that you did your water tap, you did the other things, and we didn't know it, but for the kids and to do something unique.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, so again, we see you're here, we are here, it's not your house, but thank you for your donation and helping.
It's an undisclosed location, but I can say Christ Church of Monteagle donated the land.
Okay. And you may need volunteers to help once they qualify later in life, to come and help with the children.
Definitely.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to the order of the council business, if everybody's okay with that. If you want to stay, you're welcome to stay. If not, but we want to deal with that because that's a very exciting news, as well as some other grants and meetings that are beginning to happen that are gonna be coming to pass soon. But we'll go back to, you wanna finish your presentation, Mr. Malou, so you can go fire and we'll get.
My pleasure. Just to comment, the support from the mayor and aldermen, from the various organizations, from the citizenry, that's how things get done, and we're well on the way to the fire truck. So we appreciate all those donations and all those efforts and follow up on their pledges. Okay, first of all, on your reports, we were supposed to add, and I forgot to do that, but I have the number. We were supposed to add number of gallons used for the month on fire calls, and that's 3,500 gallons for the month of October. Okay. Safety Day was held by and for Monteagle Elementary School on October 1st, 2021. Due to a heavy call load, EMS was unable to attend, but Monteagle Police Department attended with 3 police officers in attendance. The Monteagle Volunteer Fire Department attended with 6 firemen in attendance. The chiefs of both departments were present. Students were accompanied with their teachers by class to the various stations, which in this case were police and fire. They heard presentations from each department, as well as touring the vehicles inside and out. So I think they enjoyed looking at the equipment. The firefighter wore the turnout gear as well as the oxygen mask. The principal, Veronica Horton, was very pleased and appreciative of the department's efforts and participation. And when we say wear the turnout gear, that's what they might see if firemen are going into a situation. So we didn't want them petrified. We wanted them to see the uniforms, the masks, and what they would encounter if, God forbid, there was a fire. The hydrant program, I'm sure will be talked about later, but that'll be performed now by the water department and an outside contractor. Because of the efforts of the chief and assistant chief, we have so far collected more than $2,000 in insurance reimbursements, with more coming. This is an ongoing program, obviously, but these funds are to pay for equipment and material used, not turnout gear or outfitting the new used truck or those types of things. So when you go to a fire scene, obviously you expend certain materials, be it foam, be it oxygen bottles, whatever. Those insurance reimbursements are for that, based on a FEMA schedule of reimbursement. So the point is, and I'm sure there are some citizens, I hope, that are watching GCTV or hear about this meeting, if there's anyone that would like to donate to the fire department, we certainly appreciate that. Our main concern is the truck and outfitting the truck. But one thing I learned in giving from other fundraiser people and other ventures that I've been involved with, the participation rate is as important as the dollar amount. So if we have a high participation rate in the town, that looks better when we go for grants and try to do other things. So if you could give anything, any amount would be more than appreciated. So we thank you for that. And with the mayor and alderman consent, we ask that a truck no longer needed be advertised for sale when we get the new truck. Because as we're trying to start at some type of replacement schedule, where if we get a newer truck, maybe we can get rid of an older truck that probably shouldn't be in service anyway.
We did, approve at the last meeting, a resolution, and it was for a grant, to look for a grant up to $1 million for a new truck
Yes,
in Southeastern Development. And so we are looking to plan out for next year to try to purchase a new truck as well and start replacing gears. So as you've noted many times, as we start doing this, we're not gonna be leaving the guys unequipped. We're trying to come up with that scheduling.
absolutely. And it's important for any number of reasons that are obvious, but that's what we plan on doing, and there's no need in keeping equipment. As we said with the truck we sold, good money after bad. Sometimes things just get old and it's time to go.
And do, well, probably two different motions. We also discussed, the guys that said that they needed 2 more sets of turnout gears, so we were going to try, you had bid those out before, but are we gonna try to purchase, to, get that approved tonight too, so that you can make that purchase once we get the bids in for it? Not to
Yes, and
exceed, what, 7,000?
it would be, yes, approximately 7,000 or not to exceed, as far as I know, the prices. But as you know, even turnout gear has an expiration date, just like other firefighting equipment. So those 2 sets of turnout gear would be very helpful in replacing things that are older or about to expire, if not expired. So we'd appreciate whatever action you could take on that.
So we have 2 things. One, there's 2 sets of turnout gears, both the firemen have told me that they need it, and Greg has told me they need it. And of course, that will replace 2 that's either out of date or going out of date immediately, which is 35, was it 3,500, Greg? Was that the last bid? I know you're gonna have to bid it
Yes.
out. So you
Off the
think,
top of my head, it was 35 and change, but 3,500.
so, well, not to exceed 7,500, because things have went up a little bit. If, you know, the will of the council to approve the amount, and he will still bid those out, but that way he can go ahead and purchase them before they continue to go up.
Do we need to, approve allowing them to surplus the rescue truck as well?
Well, that's 2 different things. We're gonna do it in 2 different, because we'll have to put a minimum bid on that, so that language will have to be different. So we have the turnout gear that we did tell the guys we would address that. So not to exceed 7,500, do you think?
That should
way
cover it,
we-
yes.
So do we have a motion to approve the amount of 7,500, or it'll be coming out of the budget because it exceeds the 1,500, we have to approve that. So the 75 for 2 turnout gears that they will bid out.
I make a motion to approve, the purchase of 2 turnout gear not to exceed 7,500, with the funds coming out of the equipment line item of the fire department.
Right, is that right, Bill? Okay. So, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. So we got that. And then
Thank
the
you.
second one, once we get the fire truck, which the check was mailed today for the $149,000, correct? And so that, they're gonna deliver that, because the money was already approved at the special meeting.
Yes,
And once we opened the bid, which was October 18th?
21st.
21st. October's running together now. So that was already done, and of course you were aware of it, and so were everyone here. So that, once we get the truck here and they've stripped it down, that we put a minimum bid on it, and that they can go ahead and advertise to sell that one. So we'll need a motion for that as well.
I make a motion that we allow the fire department to surplus the existing rescue truck once the new rescue truck is in place and in service.
With a minimum bid, whatever that is.
Do I need to set a minimum bid?
No, you just, with a minimum bid,
With a
all it
minimum
says
bid.
it, because it is running.
Yeah.
You know, right, Greg?
yes.
So.
But runs is just really not a real firefighting
Yeah.
piece of equipment.
So we'll come up with what that is, and it'll be advertised in your ad, right?
Fine, yes.
Okay. Yes. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
That's it?
Y'all need anything else?
No.
Y'all need anything else?
Just, I'm sorry.
They're standing out here. I said, y'all need anything else? This is, I'm talking to the chief and the assistant chiefs is standing in the hallway, in case you're wondering, I'm not talking to myself. But-
Well-
Oh, and if y'all want your shirts, get your sizes to Deb for your polos and for your other t-shirts, okay? She'll get them ordered for you, all right? And here's 2, sir.
Okay, and again, thank you all very much. It's great to work with people that cooperate and understand the situation, so thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. Then we'll have the police report. Is Jared still out there? All right, sir. You're next.
Starting to look like Santa.
The 25th and the 25th, we have 18 arrests this month. The amount of drugs, I quit count. I mean, I'm not worried about it right now. We got a new evidence, custodian, well, two of them actually, Jacob and William, and we're gonna start sending that stuff off because we have no choice. But, I don't have a count for the drugs yet, so that's all I got.
And you have the positions that you bring. You did have a couple of people that switched employment, so you have two positions you're advertising for. One position, I didn't know how many you had, and there's, check. What's that? For you all that don't know, our other officer, that a lot of people not met. Okay, I didn't know if they met him or not, but we have new faces here and people that are really dedicated working with the town that we really appreciate. Does anybody have any questions for the chief? You are gonna be there Thursday night? Because we're gonna, when we do the trunk or treat at the school?
I'll be there.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, now we're going to go. Park and Rec. Jessica.
Is this working?
It was.
Is it working now? Okay. Our first item of, from Parks and Recreation will take place Thursday night. Monteagle Town is, working with Monteagle Elementary School to co-host a trunk or treat event that'll start at 5 o'clock. The parents of the students will be at a Title I meeting in the library. It'll probably last for about 30 minutes, and then the trunk or treat event will happen. And at 6:15, the town will have a Halloween movie in the gym where all the parents and the children can come. We haven't been allowed to advertise the movie because of the licensing rights, but we can tell you that it's the Addams Family animated film, which I think most people have seen and thought was a pretty good movie. And that movie will last about an hour and a half and will be done about 7:30, 7:45, and then everybody should go home after that. So with the rest of us there to clean up after the candy spills. So that's for Halloween. And then we got today a proposal for playground equipment, which will go in the Hannah Pickett Park area where the old playground equipment was removed. And we have a picture of it if any of you'd like to see it after the meeting. This project will probably take place in 3 different phases. The first phase is for younger children, and the second and third phases will be for older children and for adults. The group we're working with is called Cunningham Playground Equipment. They're based in Chattanooga. They've been very, very responsive, and the cost of the first phase is $45,000. The Morton Methodist Church is donating between $25,000 and $27,000 for the project. The town will donate $20,000, which comes from capital expenses once the budget approval is done. And so we expect to have that first install done right after the first of the year. And then depending on budgets, we'll hope to get the next 2 phases in. But I think it's going to be a very nice project. Let's see. Then
Do you need to go ahead and ask for approval once we do the budget amendments for the $20,000 out of capital improvements for the playground tonight?
do it
We do it now. I would do it now.
All right. So I'd like to ask that the council approve a budget amendment for $20,000, money coming from capital expenses to help pay for the playground at Hannah Pickett Park,
This is phase 1.
phase 1.
So what is the total cost for all the phases?
They haven't projected the next 2.
It'll probably be close to $100,000 to get the
Yeah.
equipment that's gonna last 20 years. But it'll be small children, older children, and adults. There's an entire plan.
So what we're seeing there is just phase 1?
Yes. And it's all ADA compliant, as well as, I think it goes up to 250 or 300 pounds. I mean, it's got a hefty weight limit even for children, because adults don't, and it's gonna, you did get them to retain the swing sets that were out there, right, Jessica?
Right. and we may put some new swing, some of the more modern swings that let children that can't sit up, or two children at one time swing on the same.
Isn't this basically what's at the apartment?
Well, I think it's a little different.
Little bit.
Yeah, it's a little different with the common law and some of the stuff we do. See, they're right there, so. And with this one, these are those. And of course, it has to have a certain mulch, and it has to have a certain, they have to apply it all because it has to be safe for children. But I think, did you say the warranty on this is 20 years, much that it's been in?
Does that include the mulch and everything, or is that just?
The install, the shipping, everything.
So,
So you need a motion? Did you make a motion? No.
well, wait,
I'd like
Do
some.
we need to go ahead and bid it out? Is that why we need to do it?
well, it's
now?
proprietary, this is a proprietary product as far as the service we're dealing with. To make this in compliance, there's only a few people that can do this. And we
So
did
we're
check.
gonna sole source this.
So sourcing this product to these because of the children and because of the need. And this is, but we do need to still approve phase one to be able to start with a budget.
So we're gonna ask for a budget amendment to approve half of it. But that won't buy it. The rest of it will need a separate budget amendment to,
Now, Warren Memorial is going to meet the other 25 or 27.
they're gonna pay the company directly, or are they gonna give it to us?
I would anticipate they'll give it to us.
Wouldn't we need to do a separate budget amendment to allocate those?
No, not with,
We just come
yeah.
straight through?
Can be like a donation.
No, since it's like a donation, since we bought the truck, that will have to go back in capital agreements besides what goes into the fire.
Yeah, so we'll need, that was a related question.
Yeah.
So for the generous donations tonight, we'll need to do a budget amendment to move those funds back into capital.
Since we spent the $149,000, but we
Yeah.
will leave the portion to keep it. And, yes, but we're not buying the playground equipment, all of it. We're getting a donation from Morton Memorial, plus the $20,000 invest in phase one.
So she just needs a motion tonight for $20,000.
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Any other discussion? Nate?
Yes.
Alvin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Doreen?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Okay, Jessica.
Okay.
Well, I would just keep my mind that they've got the other park up there with the little, there's an amazing amount of kids that race in that park. And we need to look at maybe getting a border pull it back up there. If
Well,
there's any way possible.
Problem was, is somebody blew it up. I mean, seriously, they did blow it up, so we need to figure out something, yes, we do. And then, you know, the police can't be there all the time, but I'm serious, they set it afire. We have pictures, they really did set it afire. But, you know, what do you do? The police officer did a report, but nobody was there. But they burnt the door off of it, and I don't know why, but they did.
Well, we can't have
Yeah, the
nice
whole
things.
wall was burnt out. So, yeah, and we had to pay for it too. So that's something, you know, we may see. I don't know, Albert, we're gonna have to work on that one. How much was that porta potty? It was, so, but I mean, I called, it was Officer Fuller. Yeah, they called me, and somebody called me, and we met up there, and the assistant chief, we met up there, and he said, I can't believe this, and I can't either, and we've got pictures of where they just set it on fire, and the whole wall melted out of it, so it was ridiculous. But people do things. What can you say? Jessica, if you want to pass this around.
Okay. The next thing that we'll be doing after, Thanksgiving is here in this room on December the 2nd and 3rd. It's a shop local event, and it will give anybody in the area a chance to bring handmade crafts or local crafts and baked items and other foods for a Christmas sale. It'll be from 9 in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon for those 2 days on the December the 2nd and the 3rd. That's for the holidays.
There's no charge for it. We just ask you to bring your own table, bring your own stuff, clean up your own stuff, but just shop local to support local businesses and crafts. So, or foods, whatever they want to sell.
Then on Saturday, December the 4th, we'll have our regular Christmas parade. The lineup will start at 4 o'clock, and that'll be over at the VFW Hall, thanks to the Assembly, who's will let us use that as our staging area. And it'll follow the same trajectory. It'll go from the VFW hall down to Town Hall where it'll disband. And we're hoping to have a lot of participation with people that'll have groups in the parade or floats. And this year's theme is
Hard Candy Christmas.
a hard candy Christmas.
So it's all about choking hazard?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, no, they didn't tell you to eat it, they just look at it.
Very pretty.
There will be cash prizes for most creative, help me here.
Most decorative, most creative.
Well, we'll have to come up with those because we wasn't sure. I know Janet's worked on the flyers, but we want to make sure we get the three, but it will be three things, and it will be cash awards for those as well as a certificate.
And when the parade is over, children can meet in Harton Park for hot chocolate and cookies, and they get to talk to Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. So that'll be for December the 4th. And then something that we're really excited about, we have hired a coordinator for our baseball and softball program, and he's here tonight. Dominic, if you want to tell people a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
Here you go, Dominique, come to the front, please, sir. Now, the job was posted and it's closed, and of course, it's January through June. Correct.
It's a part-time position, January through June.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dominic Gialdini. I moved here in January of this year to take an AmeriCorps Vista position, working in the Grundy County Mayor's Office in tourism development, specifically for economic development. Since then, I've also started working at the DuBose Conference Center right across the street as the guest services manager. So I'm essentially trying to monopolize all of the tourism here. I was approached, as many people were, to see if they'd be interested in the ball position. And for some reason, nobody else said yes, so I have a tight pool of applicants that I'm running against, and I hope that you do approve me tonight. But other than that, it's great to be here. I love the community, and thank you for the opportunity.
He lives really close to the ball field. I don't disclose that location either, but no. But there you have his driver's license, you have his background. And he'll be helping out with some other projects. He's already been drafted today, haven't you, Dominique? Which we do appreciate. Welcome aboard, sir.
Thanks.
Well, Debbie says that we probably need to make it official, so let's just do a motion if the council is in agreement to hire him for the summer program.
Okay.
So do we have a motion?
I move that we hire Dominic for the summer program, January through June, to help especially with the baseball program.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you again. We appreciate the Vista and Indy working with the tourism too, because he's working with the county in that, which is going to merge it together with us. So, all right. Do you have anything else? Okay, we're going to go to, well, we've got a sign presentation. Mr. Powell, would you come up here? You have about 3 to 5 minutes. This is our wish list thing, and I think he has his sign outside if anybody wants to look at it. But we had talked about changing the signage for the town. Oh, do you? So he can tell you a little bit about what he has. He does have, do you have your truck tonight?
I do.
It's pretty amazing. You can actually look out the window, or you can take a moment to see what kind of digital signs he has. And again, it's a wish list, but now, we talked about it prior to the election, getting a better advertisement.
This is out in front of City Hall, is what you were thinking about?
Yes, out in front of City Hall, but now we're just talking tonight. We'll make this brief and then we'll go from there, but it could be something we work toward. But if you want to stand up and look at this sign, it's an interactive meeting tonight. He can push a button and show what kind of signs he has in his van once he gets done.
While we're sitting here?
Yes.
Well, that's fancy.
Well, can you do it from here, or do you have to do it from the vehicle?
Well, you can see both sides of it and see the two different models if you walk out, but.
We'll walk out after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Perry. You go.
So I'm Perry Powell. I have lived in the community since 2015. And my wife and I built our own home, and as a crow flies, we live about a mile that way. Just so happens I have 31 years in the sign industry, and I am actually a outside rep for Cirrus, who is a manufacturer in the United States of electronic message centers. So we're a young company, we're 9 years old, and we robotically manufacture here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So we're talking the top of the tech in the US sign market. And while we're a premium product, we decided to come in and attack the market as a mid-market price point. So you can always find a cheaper solution than Cirrus, but you will not find a better solution than Cirrus. And as you know from the experience with your current display, they do age, and they do get to where there are better options out there. So you're talking about a display that will run full video, you're talking about full color, you're talking about high resolution. I was sitting here trying to guess what I think the resolution on your current display is. It's probably about a 45 millimeter. We're talking about 9 millimeter and 6 millimeter. So we're talking many thousands more LEDs making up the composition of the display than you currently have. So some of the things that we've discussed is potentially appending the poles and raising the header on the sign enough to accommodate either a 3 foot by 4 foot or 3 foot by 6 foot or a 4 foot by 6 foot under your current display. I hope to have some sample pricing for you tonight. However, I got to look at those prices and they were too high. So we'd like to take another bite at the apple before we bring any sort of budgetary items to you.
And if you're willing to stay, we'll try not to be here all night, to where the council could walk out and look at it, because I think they can see what the product is.
You want me to turn it on now?
Sure.
I don't know that we could see
With
it.
the lights on, we have.
Yeah, we're gonna have a hard time seeing it. We'll just wait, we'll come up with you.
Okay.
Is that okay? Do you mind
Yeah,
staying
no, that's
until it's
fine.
over with, and then
That's
whenever
fine.
we close the meeting, that we can go out and at least see, and then come back and talk to us about pricing. But that was one of the things we both talked about prior to the election, and of course, changing out the sign out here. And so he pulled up one day and pushed a button, and said, we'll come back and present to the council, and we'll go from there, you know, and see what we can do later.
Are there any questions I could answer at this point?
I think we're good till they see the product.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll go to utilities. We have our engineer with us, and we have Mr. John Condra, and so there's several things I think we want to address tonight. One of the things that, Travis, we want you to address, we did have a request from Mr. Waller, and I think that you've addressed that, or Sam addressed that today, and we have a letter here for the council, which will be made part of the minutes. Do you know if that was submitted by Sam to Mr. Waller today concerning the response? I'll let you go ahead and just sort of summarize that and what.
Yes, I think that was emailed this morning. I believe I saw the email go.
And what the request was, and just a summary of it. Here's your copy, and this will be an addendum added to the minutes. It's Sam's request, it's Sam's response, and Travis's. So do you care just to give us a summary?
Sure. Basically, in summary, the letter, I won't read the entire letter from Mr. Waller, but in summary, there was a request for information regarding a water source protection plan, and per Tennessee Code annotated, the following records shall be treated as confidential and shall not be open for public inspection if records that would allow a person to identify areas of structural or operational vulnerability of a utility service provider, or that would permit unlawful disruption to or interference with services provided by a utility service provider. So basically, it's against the law per Tennessee Code to hand out classified or critical information for infrastructure as part of the Homeland Protection Act that was enacted back several years ago. So we can't hand those types of documents out for public consumption.
But those were reviewed and then were updated as of.
Yes, that is an auditable document from TDEC as part of the water treatment plant inspection, annual inspection. So just a notation that it is there, and that's, you'll, if you don't have one, then they'll indicate that, and they'll make you get one in order to operate your treatment plant. So the document's there, we can't release that information to the public. Also, as far as other requests for information or comments, we are requesting just some follow-up information based on any drainage analysis that might have been performed to verify the information that was stated in the letter, just so we could review that in regards to pollution that has been documented of Laurel Lake and any pollutants that have been discharged off of the site. So basically, not to get into a lot of detail about the legalities of an MS4 community, but Monteagle is not classified as an MS4 community. Those are on the TDEC website, and that's basically stipulated by size and population. And so a general construction permit is approved and operated or I guess policed by TDEC, the state and or federal agencies, which would be TDEC and or EPA during construction. Monteagle does not have any legal authority to administer or approve or administer any notice of violations for any types of general permit under construction. So that is all handled by TDEC, and there currently is a general construction permit for the site that was discussed in Mr. Waller's letter. And TDEC, and all this is public knowledge. You can go on TDEC's Data Viewer website and see all the information and correspondence that TDEC has with the general permit holder on that site. So as far as the town's responsibility in that, they have no legal responsibility as far as general permits, either to issue those or regulation thereof during construction. So that's basically a summary of the memo that was emailed out earlier this morning.
And so you're making, you made a request back that you want to know that information so you can compare that against the data that you have, correct?
That's correct.
As our engineering firm, and that's directed upon Sam Elliott, our attorney, as well, correct?
That's correct. And Sam Elliott, the town's attorney, is handling that correspondence.
And again, this will be made as part of the minutes, the memo that was sent to you, Mr. Waller, today, so anybody can access that. So we're just going to say that it has been addressed timely and will be accordingly.
I just have one question about the memorandum. I presume that is official notice to me that the source water protection plan does not exist.
It does exist. We just cannot hand it out because it safeguards the water treatment facility and the water source. And so per Tennessee code, that those documents are not to be handed out. So as that identifies emergency responses and how they deal with contaminants and different things on the source. And so that would make it easy for someone to come in and try to sabotage the facility or the water source. And so that identifies their response plan.
I understand the security part of it. I was informed by TDEC that I should request from the town of Monteagle a source water protection plan. So I assume that was not something that you had to have a security clearance for.
Well, it's not necessarily security clearance, but it protects their response from public consumption, so that it's private and it's not out there as to how they would respond to particular situations or contain situations regarding their water source or the water treatment facility. So legally they can't hand that out.
Okay. I have one other question. You're requesting data. I assume that request is to me.
That is correct.
That any data collected and any associated hydrological drainage analysis performed or used in making the determination to the reference comments. I assume that's the comments I made about in that letter to the mayor and the city council regarding the pollution
That's correct.
that occurred. I take it you don't expect me as an engineer to perform a hydrological analysis of the drainage from the RBT properties to Laurel Lake, do you?
Well, I would assume that you have to make those comments, and I won't go into detail about reading those, but just in summary, some of the comments indicate that there has been pollution related to the runoff from the RBT site, and so in order to verify that, we would need to review a drainage analysis that would indicate that runoff from that site has made it to the lake, and so that'd be the only way that we can verify that, so that's what we're requesting.
Can I ask you, have you received from the city council copies of the photographs that I presented to them and to?
I have, yes.
And it shows the photographs of the pollution at various points along the streamlines from RBT properties all the way through the drainage system of Monteagle to Laurel Lake and in Laurel Lake, and shows the coordinates where the photographs were taken. That's not sufficient evidence of pollution.
Without getting into a engineering and technical discussion tonight, I would just say that I've looked into the based on the data that's available from the state LIDAR website and surveying data, the drainage paths from that point of town could go in multiple different directions, and so in order to determine what direction the drainage is flowing off of the site, then there would need to be some type of official hydrological drainage assessment or evaluation performed to verify what drop of water, when it hits that site, where does it go? And so without having that, it's undetermined as to where that water would go to. And so,
in other words, you need a profile of the drainage system from RBT properties through their...
A drainage assessment, yes, sir.
Okay.
But this will be part of the record, and you can get a copy of that, the papers can too.
Jim, why is this place over here the only one that's discussed?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Why is this place over here the only one that's discussed about the drainage?
Well, for about a year and a half at least, I've observed a lot of muddy water coming into the storm drainage system.
Have you ever been down to the other end of town and observed that?
I have not.
We need to.
Are you arguing that I shouldn't pay attention to what's coming off RBT?
No, I'm just saying, there's more than one place that drains to Monteagle Lake, that's what I'm saying.
Are we concerned about it polluting our primary water supply?
Could be.
I will add one other comment just along those notes. So I do think it's important that be reviewed and evaluated, and so that's why if you go to the TDEC data viewer site, there are multiple NOVs on the site where TDEC has came on site and inspected, and so as part of their general permit that they submit to TDEC, they submit an erosion control plan, and so that erosion control plan is supposed to keep those sedimentations and the runoff from leaving that site. And so that's part of the general permit, which is again approved and regulated by TDEC. And if you go on their data viewer site, you can see that there's multiple times where they've come out and responded to calls or just general inspections of the site, and there's been notice of violations listed. And again, that's on Tennessee.gov website on the data viewer site. So again, that I agree with the importance of being able to assess runoff from the site, and that is covered in the general permit, or should be covered under that general permit while there's construction going on.
I want you to know my primary concern is not the muddy water coming into Laurel Lake. That's an indication of what will happen when we have 13 acres of paving and 140 trucks and leaking diesel fuel and transmission oil. That's the only concern I have about the future of our water supply. Just wanted you to know that.
Right, and I think the drainage analysis will show where that drainage how that will be traced from that part of town to Laurel Lake or any tributaries on either side, because that is on a backbone, and so that's why we're requesting the drainage analysis in order for us to review that and just verify those questions.
Is the city gonna pay for it?
Well, we're requesting that from you, so that, because you made the comment that that's what's happening, and so for us to
I have
verify.
to donate my time to perform a hydraulic analysis, is that true?
I can't answer that.
Why?
Well, we're gonna get to the comments. We're addressing a letter and a request that was made to us that our attorney. So when we get up to citizens' comments, we'll do this more. But for clarification on the town's part, we are doing, Travis, are we doing due diligence for what the town's supposed to do to protect the water system? Because the way it was stated in the memo where we're not, that's the reason we got you involved and Sam, based upon we found out we do have a water protection plan that is protected under code, Tennessee Code Annotated 10-7-504-A-2121-A. We're not trying to keep it from anyone, but that would be like me telling you, this is the code to my bank, come and get it. This is to protect Monteagle, to keep it from being sabotaged or jeopardized. It is existing. We can probably give you the cover page. We can tell you here it started and when it's updated, but that does exist, and we are going through TDEC. But to say, and you actually had a conversation with me, that the council was not acknowledging this, we're doing everything possible to take care of our residents, from our drinking water, to our fire protection, to our children, to everything. And we're not, whether it be one area or if it be another development on this area, everything's being looked at. We have an engineer that we have now hired, and so we're not ignoring it. What we're saying though, you made the statements to the town of Monteagle in your letter, your request you brought to the planning commission, and you brought to the council with the photos which were submitted to our engineer. He has done his research. Now he's saying, based upon that, because you made the statement, this is a water ball, then we need the proof that or was it just an opinion? Was that your professional opinion? Because the way it was stated, we were not doing due diligence for this town, and we are. So we'll get into citizens hearing on this, but Travis has done his part. We will make this memo part of the minutes, and it will be online. So we're just having to deal with it that way, and we're responding to your request for what you asked us timely. And so we're making that too, because we want everybody to have their information. While we're addressing this, the sewer capacity report, we've had a request for that. Will you please tell us the status on that as well, and when we will have that for the request? We'll make the copies for the individual that requested that.
Sure. So back, I don't know the exact date it was submitted, I can go back and look, but I submitted a draft copy that did not have all the appendices and information in it for town's review, so I've not submitted the final with all the appendices, but I can do that, and as soon as that is finished, I will submit a printed copy, and that you can make copies at whatever cost it is and hand out
To those that requested. And
for
we will
those
do
that
it.
have a FOIA request for that information.
So that's the reason we're addressing these things that were brought to both two meetings, and so we want to make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to timely and informing the residents as we should. And that's what we're doing once we get the information to us and what can be released. But we'll go back to this with citizens hearing. So, John, do y'all want to address the GIS system, which will deal, we went beyond the Call of Duty with the stormwater, which we approved that. It will approve the water and sewer lines, and then also the hydrants, which we need to address that tonight, so we can approve that since we went a different route, I think, with that.
Well, on the hydrants, we decided we're gonna do it ourselves, get an engineer. Through the engineer, we're gonna get a company to do this. He's supposed, of course, we gotta put it out for bids. But we've got 215 hydrants. And how much would we gonna save out of your company?
Yeah, so basically that was originally included as part of a mapping project, a GIS project that would include sewer, the water, and the sanitary systems. So the hydrants would be part of the water GPS work. And so in lieu of paying us to do that, I've worked with other contractors in other cities that would actually, it would be a more efficient and economical deal for the town to pay the contractor to do hydrant testing and get GPS points while they're doing the testing, filling out the information. Then they can give us the GPS points that we can include on the map. And so that way you're getting a lot of information and getting all your hydrants tested. They'll actually paint those as well. And so there's, I guess, a couple of contractors that do that we've had experience with that do a good job. And so that would actually be a saving, so that not paying us to come out and GPS it, and then later have to pay someone else to come do the testing, and they would GPS those anyway. And that way the next time that group comes out, they give a much better price because they already have those GPSed and in their maps, and they can go right back to the hydrant. So in the long run, when you get that set up, it becomes a much more economical choice for the town.
Then we'll be on an annual plan after we do this, but we had identified $3,500 that we had already approved for the fire department, but they could not give us the schedule because they're volunteers, and we understand that, expect that. You were said that you were going to have to send one of the utility people out with them as well, which the cost was, we figured it at a minimum of $2,000. And then if we save $3,000 from what we've approved from the 118, that's $8,500. So if it's 16,000, that's 70, was it $75 was one of the estimates.
60 to 70.
60 to 70, but we'll have to bid that out. We're talking a total of 16,000. When we've deducted 8,500 we were already spending, so it's down to 75. They will guarantee their work. They can have it done in 3 months. It can go into the system. Did we say it's 3-month contract?
I think it's actually probably quicker than that. They could do that in probably just a month's time, a couple of weeks.
The fire department will have them, they'll be painted, there'll be maintenance, they'll be with the water flows, they'll all be checked, and all that'll be done that can go into this GI system as we improve. But the total, instead of doing the 3,500, the 3,000 and the 2,000, it'll be 16,000 total instead of.
And is the thought to then let the fire department take it on a cyclical basis, or to go with the contractor recurring?
You could do both, because if we have a full-time chief, which we've talked about later, maybe that would fall under that program. But that would be, it's hard to get volunteers because they have so much going on with their training, what they're trying to get done. They have real jobs. So that, but at least
we'll get it going. We need to set it up like a year, because I'm sure the next year when they do it, every year, 3 years. Every 3 years. I believe you'd be better off set it up like a contract with them. Because next time they come in, it'll be quicker, because they don't have a GPS. So everything will look after them, it'll be a lot quicker, probably cheaper then.
And it's going to our ISO ratings. Once we get those done, then we'll go into our overall plan
Right.
with what we're doing here, which will be a savings to everybody. So, would it be the will of the council to approve not to exceed the $16,000 to do the, what would you call it, Travis? Hydrant testing, working with you to do the bids?
Yes, hydrant flow testing.
Mm-hmm.
So this would come out of the water and sewer general fund?
Yeah. But no, we had to come out of the water and sewer enterprise funds, not general fund. So, and the money there for maintenance, and it's something that's not, how many years is, I'm not going to ask that question. It's been over 3 years, let's put it like that, right? So, but at least we'll know what we've got. And they're not going to pull up to a hydrant, and Greg and I have talked to this multiple times, they're not going to pull up to a hydrant to try to get water. We know what the pressure is on that hydrant, we know where it is, we know if it needs repairs, in case we do have a fire, And this will be all the hydrants, this is including the assembly and anyone's in our water.
But it actually shifts the finances from the general fund over to water and sewer. So.
No, it was coming from water and sewer anyhow, because there's hydrants.
Well, that 3,500 we approved was going to come out of the employee salary of the fire department. So this is.
No, we were going to pay them 3,500 into their account from water and sewer. We didn't do a contract, but that's what we agreed to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was coming out of water and sewer in the beginning. So also the 118 we approved with the GIS system, it was going to come out of water and sewer. And then the person we pay that works for the utilities, that would have to go with the fire department, comes out of water and sewer. So all that money was coming out of water and sewer. It's just, this will get it done, and it won't take 2 years to get it done. And John did say, these people are professionals. They do it every day, and they stand behind their work. So if there's a problem, we go back to them. You know, we're just learning to do this. Is that not
Another thing I'm working on is, the backflow preventers. In all business. I'm trying to get set up with TUD. You know, he's got a program and stuff, and they do that. But, I've got to get set up with him, talk with him about it. I've got to see which businesses need one. And residential, we're gonna have to send letters out to the residential people.
So every residence is gonna get one at the meter?
No, black clothes don't.
No.
It's hot tubs and pools.
Like you got a hot tub, swimming pool, then you need one at your house.
I got you. Makes sense.
And this hasn't been, I don't know, this hasn't been worked on here, so it's something that needs to be done.
And those have to happen annually, because you can get out of compliance easily. Because we had one meeting many years ago with TDEC to,
Right.
We have to test them annually, the backflow preventers?
They have to be tested annually. They're supposed to be tested annually.
Yeah.
How does this play into water meter testing? You know, we met the guy who was trying to sell us his whiz-bang new meters, and he was telling us how far, meters get off, both residential and business meters over time.
Well, most time we don't check them. I mean, we don't do, Debbie then watches, there's a lot of times when the meter like that. Now, we had some real old meters in the system, I mean, old meters. And we've got a checking station we built in our shop. We can put their meter and our meter, sit there and check it, see how many gallons run, say 5 minutes. We can test it that way. We ain't done on them. I don't know how.
Is there a way to do it in place without having to remove it?
God will remove it out there once we get these other things that we know where workaround floors are at. And of course, this we've applied for what grants have we applied for, and then we're getting ready for the ARA.
The ARC grant and a CDBG grant.
And then we're preparing to apply for is it ARA, American Recovery ARP program as well, which if that's available to do some of these other things, that hopefully will be like a 15%, and as Travis told us before, we'll have shovels in the ground, we'll be ahead of the curve. So, but on this meter, what's the will of the council with the hydrants? Do we want to approve for John and the engineer to bid out the process not to exceed $16,000 for a company that can get this done in 3 months or so?
And just to make sure I'm clear, is it gonna reduce your total GIS bill?
It will knock off approximately $3,000 off of that.
Okay.
So,
I move to approve the bid up to $16,000 to test all our fire hydrants and GPS them at the same time, with the understanding that that 3,000 of that will come off of our GIS.
They'll maintenance anytime.
Maintenance the hydrants.
They'll make the oil and grease them, whichever ones they need. Yeah.
and the 3,500 will come back to go from the fire department to this, because I won't be handling that anymore.
So I need to add that to the resolution.
If you want to, up to the motion, that's whatever you wanna do, sir. Debbie, he's looking at you, you better money first, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, I'll second.
okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? You're still in utilities, do you have anything else for us, sir?
I don't, that's Travis does.
Travis?
I can answer any questions.
Well, we'll come back to citizens hearing if you don't mind. We're gonna get Ledner knows, we're gonna deal with their issues, then we'll.
I don't have anything, I mean,
You got the, end of the road out at, the section that belongs to the city. Can you clarify that? So that it's a little bit confusing, but.
Yeah, the Grundy County Highway Department, they out North Bluff Drive, they went within 500, or about 600 feet is where their line stopped to the end. So we got them to go ahead, we paid them to go ahead and do the rest of it, the 500 or 600 feet, whatever it was.
So that's from the bluff side, that's Monteagle's Road, to the end, because for lack of a better term, I'm gonna say where Dean Lane's property begins
Right in
to
there,
the little
yeah.
creek belongs to the county.
Right.
It does not belong to the town of
Right.
Monteagle, the road doesn't.
No,
So, did you get any reflectors down?
no, we can't, cause that tar and chip seals, the gravel's gonna get worked in and stuff, and then we can put them down.
But you got some out of.
Oh, yeah, we did the ones we did the paving on Laurel Lake. And, we'll just do our section at the end of Northwest Drive.
Does anyone else have anything for that?
This is kind of related, I just want to sort of let the board know. I know last month we talked about that $40,000 bill for streetlights.
Yeah.
With Sequatchie Valley. So I called Sequatchie Valley, and at the Grundy office, they didn't know how many streetlights that was or where they were, but they put me in touch with the GIS person down in South Pittsburgh, and what I learned is that we got just under 300 streetlights. They haven't yet figured out how much they're charging us per streetlight or why they're charging us what they're charging us, but they're figuring that out. And so he asked for a week, and he's gonna give me a GIS file with the location and the wattage and what we're being billed for every streetlight in the town of Monteagle, with the idea that what some other towns have done, McMinnville is one that we talked about today with Sequatchie Valley, is they've gone to their electric co-op and said, hey, if we can help give you a little money to go ahead and change out all the lights to LEDs, can you lower our rate? So Sequatchie Valley has not done that program, but we need the information so that we can know to make that ask. So hopefully by the next meeting, I'll be able to, so he'll give it to me in a GIS and I can make a map out of it that'll sort of mix it. It'll show us the wattage of each light, where it's located, and basically what they're charging. Because as they change out LEDs, as they change out the old lights to LEDs, they're supposed to charge us less. And I'm sure they probably are, but this will give us an opportunity to check that out.
Which is saving. And Bunner, what's the status with electricians on the interstate lighting that I know?
Well, they had talked, when I was off, Greg had talked to them, I believe, and they came up and checked out the one by Hardee's and all, and got part of it going. So we've got to get with them when they come back. They're supposed to come back this week, but.
Well, as soon as you have something, you'll let us know,
Yeah,
report to us
yeah.
what the problem is to get them lit.
But they've got a lot of them going.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay.
While we're on that subject, do we have a separate meter for those? Do we
Yeah.
own those with a separate, so they won't be a part of anything Sequatchie Valley?
No. You've got 4 different meters.
So if they ain't burning, we're not paying for it.
They did. We don't pay, Debbie said, the bill on the lights on there. We have to pay for the repairs on them, but we don't pay the bill on it, is what Debbie said. We don't pay the bill.
The meters may be just for them. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
we don't pay
but
the
they
bill on
do
the
have
interstate
meters.
line.
So maybe we are paying per month for those
I
lights.
couldn't say.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
curious.
And we have talked to my partner different times to see what are the alternatives if there's no solution here that's inexpensive, to see what programs TDA and he has. But we don't know that till we see what we're at. So,
But this will give us information to be able
Yeah.
to talk.
see what we're
about
doing.
money, yeah.
So
And,
is it-
and I'm assuming that for Travis, it can dump into the GIS system we have.
It can,
I don't know
absolutely.
how interesting it is, obviously, we're not maintaining it or anything, but.
Yeah, part of the GIS proposal is we will set up an online account, and so we can import any layers that you have, so like your streetlight layer, we can make that accessible on your online account, and so you can have as many layers as you want. You have, your water, your sewer, your streetlights, your streets, and whatever else that's on there, so absolutely it'll dump right in.
Yeah, he promised me an SHP file. So.
Yep, that'll be fine.
So do you have any other questions for Utah? For the Utah report for Steve? Okay. Travis, we'll ask you and John or at least you, Travis, in case people have questions later to answer from the engineer. Before we go to, we got building inspector, Mr. Earl Gary, come on up.
How is everybody?
It's hunky dory, how are you, sir?
Hanging on. I have one visit permit for Red Lantern Insurance, little building down next to Cliff Top's office. And I think he's right here, if you'd like to.
Would you like to come up, sir, and introduce yourself?
I'm Brett Del Balso, also the Vice President of the South Cumberland Chamber. So you may know somebody from that. We're in the Farmers Agency in Monteagle for the last almost 3 years. And I broke off independent, and this was going to be an independent agency starting out in Monteagle.
Thank you. Can we see your permit, in case anybody needs to see anything or has any questions there?
I actually just did that one today.
Well,
It is complete and it's approved.
And the location's where it's supposed to be, and everything's good?
Yes.
All right, I'll just pass it down. You know the little building next to Cliff Top's?
Little cabin?
Yeah, there. I guess somebody used to have an office there. The one with little small.
Little cabin.
Yep. You're on that side, right? Like you're going towards farming and the country, like you're on this side.
Make motion to approve.
So we have a motion to approve, what is it called, Red Lantern Insurance. So do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Welcome aboard. Thank you. And they'll take care of your permit for you.
Hey, look here.
They'll do a permit that you
Okay.
can have at your office, so.
The only other thing I have, I'll bring everybody up to speed, I received the annual request for a written audit part of the State Fire Marshal's office, for our inspection department. We do one of those every year. And I fill all the paperwork out, send it back in, and sometimes they come up and do an on-site audit that they've done here before. But typically, it's just everything's done and properly done on paperwork. It's just something you have to do every year. It keeps everybody on the same page. It tells them what current issue of code that we're using, who the inspector is, and those type of things. So it keeps our martial law books in the way there. So anyway.
And are you our fire codes inspector?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you our fire codes inspector?
Well, no, I'm your building inspector. The state fire marshal's office is in charge of the building inspections too.
Well, we were reading in the codes, the ordinance book of the town of Monteagle, and saw that, I didn't know this before, that the fire chief, it can be designated by the town as the fire codes enforcement officer.
That is true.
Or someone else, and I didn't know if you had been designated.
There used to be someone else.
Okay.
I would rather not be.
Right, we have, and of course, the fire chief, Greg, and the assistant chief are aware of it. We do have the state fire commissioner, and we have our MTAS fire coordinator coming up to work with us for an assessment that's scheduled this next month, right? It's November. And so we're gonna be meeting with them, and some of these things we can do. Now, at one time, we did have an employee that was appointed that, and I don't know what's happened the last few years, but we'll be able to answer that with you, Earl, and with them in the next few weeks to determine who should have that position. Since we're going back to volunteers, and we need to assess their fire department and see what they can do and can't do.
Well, I had just, until I read it, I didn't realize that we had that, we did that sort of thing.
It used to be a utility workers, it used to be years ago, but I don't know who it is now, because I don't know who's been. We did have someone about a while back that did it. But I don't know if they've been certified or still doing it or not.
Well, typically, when you have a fire chief that's fire coach,
Enforcement.
that's for a fire department that's not volunteer. It's one where everybody, when you got
Okay.
stations.
That's why I was surprised that we had that in our code, that is the way we're set up. That the building inspector and the fire chief are the only two non-police officers who can actually write citations and summons people to court.
Well, you go.
It's just my light reading.
But no, it doesn't, he can't be the codes enforcement officer. Well, we'll talk about that later, let's don't get into that tonight, we can open up, because we have to look, as we look at codes to see that we're in compliance.
If there's stuff in that book I didn't know.
Yeah, there's stuff in there that a lot of us don't read, but we're fixing that stuff, Nate. So, what do you need us, are we gonna go ahead and, you're gonna pursue that and work with us to get that done?
Yes, ma'am, I told you I'd help you, I'll be glad to.
And of course, we are trying to get everything else in order, that we'll need your guidance on.
Well, whoever, whatever you decide to do on that, you do need to get somebody that is literate in, communication with a computer, writing it, typing, emailing and scanning and all that kind of stuff, because it's all involved. And I've got templates that are made up that, you gotta do, put names and numbers in. I'll be glad to furnish those to whoever you might want to have them, but they need to be a little bit literate. Not illiterate, they need to be literate. And communication with the computer and all that. So I'll be happy to try to answer any other questions anybody might have.
The other thing we need to do, of course, I know that, we need to go ahead and schedule a public hearing for Jason Tate and his second reading, or, well, I think we have the first one tonight. But I mean, since Earl's here, we're gonna go ahead and try to schedule that. Earl's happy to do the first reading tonight, so that we can, I know he's got his sign up, I saw that, for his rezoning.
Did we got the right date on it?
I didn't read the date, I just saw the sign. I just saw the sign, was up. You check on the date after we finish here tonight. But that'll be something we'll be addressing tonight for his,
He called me before and asked me if he needed to be here, and I told him he did not have to be at this meeting.
and I don't know why, because he's already been to the other one, he can fit the public hearing and the final one, so. Once that's.
He'll be the public hearing.
Yeah, so.
For his question.
But that's also to address, once we do, if we approve the first one tonight. Does anyone else have anything for buildings inspector here?
Construction wise, we're still, Coach Trip's still wide open. I spent a couple of days a week up there. There are a couple, one of those houses on Laurel Lake on the left out there is ready for a rough in. I got another text message today from David Maxwell. It's ready for a rough in, so I'll get up there tomorrow and do it. I've been to Isaiah House several times. And we worked out some details on that. Some of the walls were, but they've had a hard time keeping frames. Of course, I'm sure they probably have a lot of work donated and all that. It's hard to keep people in there. We had some issues on the walls not being in the right place. But we squared all that up. Everything's square, working with them. So it's going very well.
And we have a lot of interest in some commercial entities that are pursuing.
I have heard quite a bit.
And we have too, but they'll come to the planning commission and follow suit. We'll see what comes out in the next month or two.
You can hear all you wanna hear, but let's see what happens.
That's right.
When we got the pre-site plan, I feel pretty good about it.
All right.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, we'll go to the ordinances, and Stephanie, we're going to give to you after we do our ordinances, because we're gonna consider you as our business, because we wasn't really sure how you were coming back. So we'll just let you do the presentation once we finish with the ordinances, if that's okay. So, it'll be the first reading of ordinance 18-21, which is our personnel policy. What it is it's the amendment of the personnel policy of the town of Monteagle General Government, where that a person has 24 hours, is that correct, to turn in a job-related injury to make sure that is identified in the time frame. So, do we have a motion to make this change to our ordinance 18-21 for the personnel policy?
I make a motion, we approve ordinance number 18-21 to amend our personnel policy.
And that's the first reading. Do we have a second? Okay. Any other discussion? Is the door ring? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Second one. ordinance number 19-21, ordinance to amend the zoning map for the town of Monteagle, Tennessee for rezoning partial 084-46, Grundy County Tax Map 101, from R3 High Density Residential District to C2 Highway Commercial District, and this is the property that Mr. Jason Tate is planning on putting his screen printing business on 41 as you go to toward Tracy City. So do we have a
Make a motion.
right? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? So we also need to go ahead and, Deb, do you have a date for that? November 15th, to do a special meeting and a public hearing and special meeting to do the second reading on Mr. Tate's 15th. On his second reading, his public hearing and second reading on ordinance number 1921. Well, could we not just do it? What can we do on all? No, just on the Jason Tate property. Will you do a public hearing and then we can go into it? Well, what Debbie was just saying, we'll have to do a public hearing. If we do a public hearing at 5 or 5:30 that day, then we have to have a time frame and a sign in for that. Then we could go into a meeting to approve the second reading on his ordinances. And if y'all want to, we could just have a meeting on the 15th. That gives us a time frame to approve all three of the ordinances that we're looking at. The beer ordinance, the deletion of section C, which we'll look at that 20 and 21 if we approve it, 1921, which is Jason's, we just approved, and 1821, which is the personnel policy. So we could just take care of all those ordinances once but we'll have the public hearing that will only address the ordinances. It will not address anything else. And say we do it, let's say 5:30, we'll do the public hearing, I don't know what time we'll want it. 5:30, and then at 6 o'clock, we'll have a meeting to address some of these items, okay? So, somebody wanna make a motion for that?
Madam Mayor, before y'all do that, can I ask a question?
Yes.
It says a public hearing, Jason Tate, October 15th.
It's supposed to say November.
And it's supposed to be November?
Yeah, it was a typo.
All right.
So, we do have to change that on our next meeting, but that'll be.
I just noticed that, wanna make sure we got that fixed.
Yeah, we found that one a bit ago, so. So, do we wanna do this in a motion? She said we don't have to do that in the motion if you're agreeable. And doing the public hearing on November the 15th at 5:30, and then we will go into a meeting that will address ordinances 18-21, 1921, 2021, and 2021, and that's how we will deal with that now.
Because we probably don't have a meeting in November.
Well, we may not, because of Thanksgiving and everything coming up, and we did have a meeting, I've got some meetings scheduled with the commissioners at the end of the month too, so. So is the council agreeable with that?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll make sure. Okay. All right, now then. Okay, and we'll make sure that Jason is notified to be here, or on the 15th at 5:30 for the public hearing, and then for the meeting at 6 o'clock for his final reading. Okay, then.
5:30 public hearing, 6 o'clock meeting, that's on November 15th.
November 15th.
All right.
Okay. The next ordinance is 20-21, an ordinance to amend section 1207 of the zoning for the town of Monteagle, Tennessee, to delete subsection C. You got that up on the screen, Nate?
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay, subsection C. And that was based on, is this the first one?
Oh, but now I got it over there, I can't read it.
And this is for, what is subsection C? So what is that?
I don't know. I'll bring it back over here.
This is where we take out the 5 steps that the attorney wanted us to take out because it was getting, he felt too many issues for the town based upon his recommendation that This was the second reading.
You know
We
that.
need to-
The planning commission asked you to do it at the last one in the resolution. This is the ordinance.
So we didn't do it for the
So we passed the resolution.
You passed the resolution, but this is the ordinance that actually does it.
So,
Okay. So this is grounds for amendment. The planning commission in its review and recommendation, and the city commission in its deliberations shall make their findings with regard to all of the following grounds for an amendment. Amendment is in agreement with the general plan for the area. The amendment does not violate the legal grounds for zoning provisions. It has been determined that there will be no adverse effects upon the adjoining or adjacent property owners unless such adverse effect can be justified by the overwhelming public good or welfare. It has been determined that no one property owner or small group of property owners will benefit materially from the change to the detriment of the general public. And number 5, it has been determined that the conditions affecting the area have changed to a sufficient extent to warrant the amendment to the town's general plan. Now that I've read them, I'll move them over so everybody else can read them. Sorry,
okay. So, this is back to ordinance number 020-21, that the resolution will pass. Do we have a motion for the first reading on ordinance number 20-21?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2021.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Opposed?
No.
Nay, no. Okay, and again, that was based upon, the determination that the town attorney had requested we remove it, and that's sounding good. Okay, then we have another ordinance, 21-21. Ordinance number 21-21, an ordinance of the town of Monteagle of Tennessee to amend certain provisions with Title 8, Chapter 3 of the town of Monteagle Municipal Code relative to beer. This is to define the distance between beer, which we would be changing that 200 feet, and the measurement would be from door to door instead of property boundaries. And if you see, that's in section 2 that we're making those changes.
Yeah, that probably wasn't in our packet, right? I don't
Yes,
see
it should have been. Oh, it wasn't? Well, I know Jill said she gave y'all one. It's the language, we just got those. We've been working on this for several months.
Yeah.
And because it was not, when it came to spirits and to liquor, you could do this within 200 feet, but when it came to beer, we couldn't, and we could throw beer. And also, instead of going property line to property line, it's from door to door, which is changing the distance. So, do we have a motion on ordinance number 21-21?
I make the motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
We also redefined beer in this, I think. too, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes.
And what is the, well, where's the definition
Sam
of
and I
beer?
worked on it together.
Okay.
It
Okay.
wasn't, I was gonna try to let everybody else.
So,
do it. It's not in the packet.
Well, yeah, let's do this. Stephanie, do you want to come up and present what you would like to do for your Reed's Garden so the council's aware of it? And we'll give you about 3 minutes since you've done it. We don't have your presentation, but I think you made some revisions and changes.
Excuse me, thank you.
So, first of all, thank you and good evening. I know it's late, so I will keep it brief. 3 minutes is great. I just wanted to kind of let you guys know what we're hoping to do here at Growing Roots. We're a nonprofit headquartered in Tracy City, lots of ties to Monteagle, and we focus on food access and community wellness. And so through this, we also focus on wellness in kind of the mental and social states. And so we are hoping to build a native plant space in the strip of land between here, City Hall, and DeVos Conference Center, / the Mountain Goat Trail. So this would actually be a garden based off of the Mountain Goat Trail, and it would be a location that highlights native plants in the area. So it highlights plants that have medicinal and culinary uses, and it also addresses the indigenous voices that are here on the mountain. And so we're hoping by creating this that we have a space that is going to bridge some cultural divides. We want to plant these plants, we want to talk about them and the reasoning behind them. We want to also provide some narrative about the Trail of Tears, which, as we all know, runs right over here. And we also want to provide a couple other phases to this that deal with, some art and some poetry, and really kind of tie in a lot of different aspects to it.
But now you're phase one, and let's just.
I was gonna say, let
Yeah.
me,
Yeah,
let
let's-
me explain a little
Yeah.
bit about phasing.
Yeah, let's do
And
phase
so-
one, because I know the other ones are gonna take planning commission, it's gonna have to go before Garrett, so all we can really address tonight
Absolutely.
is phase one, the simplified version of it, so we all have a grasp of it.
So phase one is something that we're hoping to complete very soon. And this is a garden area that is got a little footpath through it. It has some benches. It has different plants in it. It will have some signage. And so this is something that will be aesthetically pleasing and that will be more or less complete when we're done with phase one. Somebody will be able to walk through there. They'll be able to sit and enjoy, that sort of thing. And so tonight, I'm hoping to just kind of let you know about that phase one project, to see if it's something that you really want to see there. We know that the Mountain Goat Trail Alliance, my understanding right now is that they own that property, but that it will soon be ceded to the town of Monteagle. And so we want to make sure that if we build on there, that it's something that everyone does really want to see and enjoy.
And you're saying it would be a garden that you would maintain, and it would be maintained by you guys, and a couple of benches, correct?
That's correct. Growing Roots would take responsibility for maintaining that garden. We have a number of community groups that are interested in doing that. We have volunteers and maintain a thriving volunteer space in Tracy City right now. But it's something that we would take responsibility for maintaining, because we feel like if we're gonna be doing it, we need to step up to the plate and do that.
And of course, again, we can't act upon this tonight because it's not our property, but we've got, well, no, we've got the council here. We have Mountain Goat people, but they're aware of it. But how quickly would you want to do this?
We're hoping to get it done within the next month or so. We have some purchasing deadlines. We have secured all of our funding for it. And so we want to purchase things within the next week or two, but we want to be able to actually push it out probably by November 30th is the date we're looking at. We are willing to look at changes to the design if we need to talk about the different plants, that sort of thing. But we are hoping to get it in sooner rather than later, mostly because of the winter coming up and the fact that we don't want to be out there building in the middle of winter, and most of our plants might not survive if we put them in too late.
Do you have a drawing we can look at?
We do.
Okay.
And I've sent it over, but I can also pass it out.
Well, that should have went to the Mountain Goat, it shouldn't came to the council because it's still Mountain Goat's property.
Yeah.
So did y'all know we said it? So what I'm saying tonight, we can just discuss it because the Mountain Goat's gonna have to approve that, and then if it's within compliance, we can plant a garden. That's not, we can allow the Mountain Goat to plant a garden, that's not a problem. We just can't build structures, so that's,
I have one that says a nice little phase one on it. I want to make sure that you get that one.
Okay, now I have a question here, because I'm gonna ask this, is yours, you might have to come and help me. Sure, come over here and identify something, I'll pass it down. Is this your little walking area to the trail?
This is our footpath for the
Okay.
area. These
What
are
is that?
benches.
Benches? Okay, what are these things?
So those are our planting clusters, and so those are, for example, raised beds over here, trellising plants over here, wildflower garden over here.
Okay, so let me pass this down to, the rest of you guys to look, and also for the Mountain Goat folks to look at, because we're just basically looking tonight. So. And
And so
this,
the idea is just, and thank you for coming to introduce it to us, is we just wanted to sort of
Yeah, I
make
wanted
sure
to make
everybody
sure
gets
that
it's a good.
everyone does have a handle on what it is, that sort of thing.
well, let me ask you this, regardless to who owns the property, you might wanna look at this. Does it have to go through anything with Garrett, even the scaled down version that she has here, since that, before we can say, I mean, we think it's a great idea, but we wanna make sure we follow the proper steps regardless. If it's a simple garden, I know it doesn't, but is there anything in this that you might see?
Is it privately owned?
Right now it is.
Okay. Let me confer with Garrett, and I'll make sure we don't make any mistakes with it. Some planning commission will need to approve, I'm not really sure.
So we can get that turned around. He could get he'll need to take a copy with him to get to Garrett and get back with us, since it's technically privately owned right now.
Absolutely, and I've actually already reached out to Garrett
I'm happy for you to confirm, Earl.
Well, Gary said it's
Thumbs-
good.
Thumbs up. He says that for this phase one, it's not something that would be needed. I'll probably come to the planning commission meeting anyway, just, to kind of give everyone a heads up on it. But for this one, he clears it.
Are there any structures in the park as far as buildings or?
There's no buildings, there's only trellises and benches and a walking trail, so.
Yeah, that is the
But
phase
if you don't mind, will you give that one to Earl, so we can have that in writing from the city's perspective, and then we'll see what we can do, but I think it's a good idea. It's a really good idea, so once they get it going, we can, you know.
And we're hoping that it does bridge some divides and helps to create a point of connection for our community.
That's what we're trying to do in this whole area. We're still working on recharging sites and mountain goat trails, and then our pavilion and movies, and, you know, the little walking trail that was out here, and, you know.
I'm a big fan. I think social infrastructure is very important.
Yeah, so, but thank you for coming, you know, so.
All right.
Okay, now let's go. Alderman?
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to make you aware of, you had asked me to do some preliminary work on the solar idea, and so John and I are gonna go out tomorrow, and we're gonna look at the two properties. Next week, MTAS's renewable energy representative is gonna come up, so he's gonna meet, he wants to come here.
Well, I'm not gonna be here, I've gotta go to a memorial service, but you can meet with John and Butler, and then y'all can give us the feedback.
They're just gonna look at the properties as well. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that, but that's.
We're also looking at some timber out there we don't need, if we're looking at putting solar out there, but y'all can work on that one, because we're not using the property, if we can get the money for the timber, and then we can have solar and get paid for it, or at least pay for our lots too, that can save us a lot of money, so.
Yeah, they're separate but related. If we wanna do a project that involves federal funds, we wanna go ahead and have it site prep before we enter into any contract. Makes things a lot simpler.
No solar, can they put to a big power line?
They wanna be really close to a big power line, so that's one of the things I hadn't had a chance to look at, but we're doing some of this same stuff at the university, and they actually want to be really close to the transmission lines. So if there's one close by, that's great.
It probably is in those, I think. That's what I was thinking it
Good.
did.
So that's Thursday, it's November 3rd at 4 o'clock. I'll follow up with you tomorrow, I'm sure.
So John, if you can just be there with Nate, and y'all can do the timber assessment and that.
We'll look at that tomorrow, so we have a good idea of what that's about.
See where we're at on that. Alden?
But we're approving it.
Well, we have to approve it, we haven't approved it, because they didn't get a raise.
Tonight, and we just, well, I couldn't find them out now, but we're gonna bring that up later.
No, we need to do it now.
All eyes are on you.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a motion. And you have to tell me the amount again, 11,700? Okay, I make a motion to approve $11,700 for employee Christmas
No, this is bonuses.
bonuses.
Yeah, not Christmas, just their bonuses, since they didn't give a raise, looking at the income of this year with those that have been here. How long? A year, they would have to been here a year.
Well, this is hazard pay related to COVID, isn't it?
Well, you can't really call it that, so.
Oh.
You, I don't know what you're talking about.
I thought okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, I thought
yeah.
there was.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's different definitions according to the comptroller, and if you get into those definitions, it only fits certain descriptions of jobs. But due to the fact that we're getting $366,000, we can use some of money that we lost during that time frame, that we can do bonuses for people that were here.
And this is an expense that we would be able to get reimbursed with.
Well, we're already gonna get reimbursed for it, but that's an expense, but it cannot be used for, because it could fall under essential workers, then there's a definition for essential workers.
And we define all our workers as essential.
We think they all are essential, but I don't think the comptroller agrees with us on that definition, just to be frank. So, and that would be allotted to the folks that were here during, for the year during that time frame, because they didn't get any bonuses, and they also, of course, we did not have a raise this year because we didn't know where we'd be with our finances. So,
And we got 26 employees, is what you said?
no, to 2020, I'm not sure how many there are. It was based upon that time frame when they were here. So there are stipulations of, the ones that would get the bonus. If you just started work, you wouldn't get this bonus.
So it would be 4 workers who were working during all of 2020?
Starting May of 2020.
May
Starting
20
May.
through September.
Through September 2020.
And that's the way everybody else did it too, as far as I know, that's what you said. I know other private entities did it. Yeah, I don't know what the university, if they did anything, but that's totally different, because, of course, Alvin's retired just for us, so, I don't know, that didn't work. So it's $11,700 is what we had discussed allocating for those employees during that time across the board for the number of employees. So you made a motion for that, Alvin?
Yes. So how is it to be distributed? Is it evenly among all the employees that
That
were
were
working
here.
through May
Yeah.
through September? Okay.
Yeah.
All full-time employees will get a different bonus than
No.
what part-time employees will get, but they all get a
I
bonus.
don't think there was any part-time during that time. She said.
I thought you said there was 3.
No, she'll have to look and see, but the math was done to where they all full-time would get the same thing, and if they're part-time, they get the same thing.
Yeah, but there's a difference between part-time and full-time.
So,
Okay, Alan made the motion, I'll second.
okay. Any other discussion? Nate?
Yes.
Alvin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay. Now, does anybody have anything else to discuss? Do you need volunteers to come and help with Christmas? So yes, do y'all need that? We all talked about, are you going to wait and do something about it?
I'm gonna have a meeting Friday night with, just anybody that wants to show up to help decorate, ideas, muscles to decorate for Christmas, because, I'm hoping we can go very elaborate with it. But I'll put everything on Facebook or on the website, so we're good with that.
And we are getting things updated on the website. We do have a person in-house that is now doing that. Their skills are being transferred over. So send us information. She's working on getting everything done as she can with each department, but it's gonna take a little while, to get it done, just to be honest. And that will be linked with, of course, the website and with the Facebook. So now we're at the point of citizens hearing. If there's a citizen, yes, sir.
Will everything that's sent out on Facebook be on the website when that project is completed?
Actually, what she's doing now is putting it on the website, and it'll be linked to Facebook, yes, sir.
I'm not on Facebook, so what would I?
You would go to the website,
Okay.
because that's where she actually puts her information. Now, there will be a YouTube channel later that'll be out there that you can actually watch the movies if you want to be entertained, for hours, because those will be linked later too, because we also have our own YouTube channel that can be linked, but we're gonna make it entertaining. Yeah, so.
Well, everyone needs a little entertainment.
So, a citizens hearing, is there anyone that has anything to say? If they do, you're welcome to come up for 3 minutes. We will listen to what you have to say. Come on up, Lucy.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank all of you all. I know it's late and comes from this. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Waller. I'd like to thank Mr. Waller for the work that he has done and for his concerns about the drinking water, our water supply. I think that we all agree that that's an important thing. And I'd like to ask you, Travis, if I understand that you can't give us the source water protection plan, but can you tell us in general terms how Monteagle's plan now includes the Petro site and what steps would be taken
in case of an emergency, as in another chemical spill, for instance.
To my knowledge, there hasn't been a specific edit for a specific parcel.
Well, I'm trying to understand exactly what a source water protection plan is, because it was the TDEC representative, Jennifer Ennis, who asked us to ask you all for one. So, and she said that any development, any current business should be on the site plan, on the protection plan, but also that plan is in place so you know whether or not a new development, like the size of this proposed truck stop, is going to be part of that plan.
Typically, those plans are reviewed annually, unless some other type of event is transpired that would cause that to be reviewed.
So could you tell us, for instance, like if there was something that happened on the pilot site, that would already be on your source water protection plan, the pilot site. So I would assume
I would have to go back and review specifically about specific parcels in the system. So I can't really answer that question right now.
So if there were an emergency, we really don't know what the plan is.
I think the again, without going through and having that in front of me and being able to answer that question, I can't do that right now without looking into that. But I can say that those plans are developed and reviewed by TDEC that would provide information sufficient for the state to see that the water treatment facility is protected and that any type of responses are adequate for the state. Now, getting into details of, if someone puts in a garage or someone does each individual parcel, that could be for any landowner in an entire area. And so, again, that would have to be looked at annually and as it comes to the attention of the town.
Okay. So, we've had a lot of rain, a lot of heavy rains, and so we've been able to really see and track the runoff, the stormwater runoff from those 20 acres into our stormwater drain system, which then goes under the interstate into the headwaters, essentially, of Laurel Lake. So I'm just trying to understand, we're doing the mapping of the stormwater system, correct?
Inside the town, but I haven't looked at that in order to answer Mr. Waller's or respond to his letter. And and that's why my request for the drainage analysis is because, as everybody knows that lives up here, there's a lot of hills and hollers and valleys.
Yeah.
And so a drop of water, you could run an analysis to see if a drop of water hits any particular spot in your study area, where that drop of water goes to. And so that's why I was asking that, if that had been performed, because without doing that, you really can't just go out on a site and say this water goes to this piece of property or it drains to this tributary, just because there are a lot of geographic hills and lowlands in the area. And so,
but given the site plan and given the elevations and given where our stormwater system is, where the drainage is, it's just kind of like follow it. And I think TDEC had initially addressed the water going off on the other side is going down into the Cave Cove Creek system, which then ends up in Battle Creek, which is pretty much where the pilot runoff goes. But this runoff, it looks like most of the runoff that's not going to go through vegetation on the back side and down Cave Cove Creek and into Battle Creek is going to come on this side, on the Dixie Lee Highway side, at the corner of Sampley and Dixie Lee. And then if you follow it down across the post office property, back of Lakeside Collision to the interstate, you can see where it goes. So there's real I mean, it's kind of a, you know, we're just citizens who are concerned, and it just seems obvious that if that's where if that's where the silt is going now in such preponderance, that once we have 15 or so acres paved with semi-impervious material, that anything that's on top of that pavement that washes into the same direction with a storm is going to end up in Laurel Lake. So at what point does stormwater runoff coming from a site with many pollutants and contaminants on it, at what point should that be redirected either to sewer treatment or have a specific kind of treatment on site in order to protect us from those contaminants getting into our water and then into our bodies?
So, I think there was a couple of questions in there. I'll try to answer.
I'm sorry. It's just the way my mind works.
That's okay. I get the gist of what you're asking. So I think the number one is the concern of what is happening now with siltation from the site. So again, that should be covered under the general permit and their erosion control measures. So there should not be any siltation coming from the property. And so if there is, then that would lead to an NOV from TDEC, which according to their data viewer site has been issued.
And not just issued once, they've been in violation since they started moving.
That's right. So
they've never not been in violation.
So that's a TDEC issue.
So that, I know, it's a TDEC
But
issue.
wait, he's answered your question within 5 minutes, so let him answer your questions. I mean, we would do that for anybody else, just like we did that. Okay? All right, Travis, go ahead.
So that's the first thing is to address what's happening now with the construction and the runoff. And so there are erosion control measures which are approved as part of the general permit. And so as long as construction is going on, TDEC is to regulate that, issue NOVs, and order corrections to prevent that from happening. So the town, even though, I'm sure that every member that's here is concerned about their drinking water, everyone in this room, I don't think there's no question of that. So, but there's nothing from a legal authority that the town can do in order to issue violations. That's held under the state. And so to answer your question about what happens after construction with runoff or pollutants or whatever that may come from the truck stop, Monteagle is not an MS4 community, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. You can look that up. And so that again falls under the state and federal guidelines that if there are issues relating to non-point pollution, that TDEC or the EPA again would come in and issue fines to the violator because the town does not qualify for MS4, and so they have no regulatory authority even after construction. So the general permit protects the environment and the water runoff during construction. After construction, those cities who qualify and are regulated under MS4 have they have the legal authority and the expectation from the state and federal government that they will step in and have ordinances enacted that they can act upon those if there's any violation. In Monteagle's case, they're not in MS4, and so therefore the state again would have the jurisdiction to come in if any property owner, that could be any property, not just the one in question, but anybody, then a call would go to TDEC, and TDEC would again issue violations or NOVs and levy fines against the violator. So I'm not sure if that's all of your questions, but there's no legal authority from the town to regulate or control or issue violations.
If you don't mind, let's do this, because if you want to send a letter like Mr. Waller did, then we will get to Travis and to the attorney, but I'm gonna ask you some questions directly.
Okay.
I'm gonna do layman terms because I'm not familiar with all the acronyms with TDEC, and I'm not gonna claim to be. As far as you as our engineer and we have our utility director, are we as a council doing our due diligence regardless to where it's the 85 acres out here that's being cleared, that goes straight to Laurel Lake, if I'm not mistaken, somebody clarify me, or it's the development of Laurel Lake, or that area, or it's development over by Pizza Hut, because there's about 10 different big elements going on. There's 85 acres that's been cleared that goes straight to Laurel Lake. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Well, if you drive across the interstate, you'll see it. There's a sign on Laurel Lake for it's for sale, and it goes right to the lake. There are multiple facets that go into that. From what you discussed with us, because when this first happened, we're not going to put anybody in danger. And I'm speaking here for this council. We're doing due diligence, regardless to where it's pilot, whether it's RBT, whether it's a private developer. I don't even know who owns all the property. You know, whether there's multiple houses and there was land cleared. I don't know if you ever went out to Laurel Lake, but drive out there and see all the property that was cleared and all the water and all the mud that ran across there. So regardless to who it is, they're going to do their due diligence that we can, and we will see it's done as far as this council. I don't know anything else before. We are doing with our engineer and our attorney, answering everyone's questions. But to say specifically, it's one business, I think your utility director said that, there's no way you can identify that that's coming from one thing. Now, I know you're concerned, but you haven't addressed any of the development anywhere else in the city. So if you've got those questions, we'd like for you to send them to him. And he will address them like Mr. Waller, because you've done your, and I'm not being rude, but if somebody else wants to come up, they're welcome to come up and spend their 3 minutes. And we will make sure we document it. And you can get a
Can I
copy.
just answer your due diligence?
Yes.
Please. So, as part of the due diligence, when you're, it seems to me, when you're, in my opinion, when you're dealing with a site for, specifically for a truck stop, that's different than clearing land to build a house, for
How do you
instance.
know that this could be a truck stop on the other side?
It could be.
I mean, it's done for that.
So, all I'm saying is that it does come before the council and the planning commission in terms of site plans. And maybe there's nothing legally requiring the city of Monteagle to make sure that a development of any kind doesn't over pollute our water supply, but it does seem like you have the opportunity to say to the people who are building something, you need to treat your water, your stormwater runoff, before it gets into our lake.
And I think we're going to do that. That's the reason we have Mr. Wilson here that's working with us day in and day out, not only on one project, but we didn't have to do the stormwater plan, but we included that into our GI system, to where we're going to do due diligence for this
So it
town.
shouldn't be necessary for Mr. Waller to have to.
Now, Mr. Waller told us in the letter, and we can provide you with that letter as well, and we'll make it part of the minutes, that we were not doing this, and he made a statement, because I asked him would he do it for the record, that this is happening. So we asked him for that evidence, because he made a statement, just like I could say, Lucy, this is your fault. Then someone would say, prove it. That's what we said, because if you've got the information there, then we want to see it. It's not we want him to, he's already made that statement, it's happening, period. Nobody
In the process of tracking and mapping, it does seem like it would show up that this is coming from that site to our reservoir.
I can't answer that, but we will have our stuff answered. Mr. Waller, if you'd like to come up, you're welcome. You've got 3 minutes, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Lucy.
I do believe there is a legal requirement as stated in the ordinance. And it says in section 1008Q, site plan shall contain the following components and information as applicable. Plans for collecting stormwater and methods of treatment.
Mr. Gary's here.
I presented to the Planning Commission and to this city council 2 papers. One was a supplement, the last of which was a thorough hydrological report on the drainage off of the 13.3 tributary acres from the RVT property into the storm drainage system and into Laurel Lake. I did that specifically by studying the Sadler and Associates final drainage plan and their site plan, which I have observed have been changed in the construction. When they had previously 4 ponds, they now have 2 ponds. They've changed the inverts of the outflow pipes from these ponds from one elevation to another elevation. I don't know if this has been approved by the Planning Commission or not. And I'm saying based on the original plans that I reviewed, there was no question that the water flowing into the inlet of the Monteagle storm drainage system was flowing to the outfall in what I call Hidden Creek behind Lakeside Collision. And this, judging by the contours of the stream going toward Laurel Lake, with that, no dams to prevent it from going continuously downstream. And then observing the actual flow of muddy water, and tracking the location along the stream by coordinates using a handheld Garmin. There's no question of it happened. All I have to do is put a seal on this and give it to your engineer, and that is a hydrological report.
Well, and that's what he's asked you for, so he can do an assessment.
If you can do that, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
I will seal it and deliver it.
Okay, thank you. John, do you have anything else to say to that? Travis? Does anyone else have anything else to say?
Can I say something on another topic?
Jesus, no.
Well, I have a question first. Earl, can you confirm that there's not been any change to the site plan that was approved?
I cannot, nor I can. I do not know.
But nothing has been approved. We've not approved any changes, so as far as you
Nothing
know,
has been approved.
the original plan that was approved by the council will be the plan when this is completion. Right?
And you will be watching that again, you've said, as well as the engineer and everyone else.
I wouldn't know if it's upside down or crossways in
No,
there.
but Mr.
there's people that y'all pay good money to that does know that, have that information. And
The only way you
I think
could know
could
that,
rely on what he tells you.
I think the only way you can confirm that an invert elevation was changed is to have a survey shot on that and verify the elevation change.
But how would we know the elevation changed when we were not here whenever it started?
Yeah,
I mean, we were not, this was how it started. When was the grading actually started, last July?
Well, the elevations he's referring to are in the plan,
Well,
so
and
Travis
we
can
could-
confirm
you
that they are
can-
following the plan.
And you can review that for us, Dr.
Yeah, if we have survey data available, then we can do that. So has there been a survey of the site to verify that invert elevations?
I have no idea. That would be the contractor or the engineer of record who would have that information.
I'm sorry, I thought you said you knew had been changed.
Well, I just observed that they put them in different elevations.
Can you two get together and discuss this, and you can come back and report to us what you find out once you get his?
I can, but the only way I'll be able to verify that is with survey data. So if someone surveys it, then we can certainly review that, compare that to the initial plans, but otherwise, that's gonna be very difficult to do visually, without survey data to verify it, so.
And at this point, we need to let them get their construction going, and at the time when they're ready for inspection, then if it seems prudent, if it seems like something may have deviated from the plans, if there's some real concern that some of the invert angles have changed, then maybe it makes sense for us to do some of that due diligence. But at this point in construction, I don't think it makes any sense for us to begin that process.
Yeah, I mean, and I say that because invert elevations, they go on tenths of foots, and so there's no way to eyeball that and know without survey grade data, so.
But for the record, we have asked you to ensure that we're protecting our water source from any development, any mains, or any active God that could happen, you know, with something that can happen. And that's one of the things that we've asked you to do and continue to do, regardless of who the developer is or where the property is, that we as a council are taking care of our residents and our water source. Correct?
Sure. And I can put together a list of any information that I'm lacking and request that.
Okay. So does anyone else have anything, citizens hearing? If not, have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Have a second? All in favor? Aye.